support, expected to continue to support for as long as we're needed there.
The Red Cross answers questions today as critics ask what's being done to help farm workers with COVID-19. Plus, a look at what's next when it comes to agri-farm testing. A live look outside right now in Windsor. We're watching for pockets of rain tonight, breaking up this beautiful sunny day that we've been enjoying. 34 with the humidex right now outside. Colette Kennedy has the full forecast tonight. I'm Chris Hensing. Thanks for joining us. We have some answers today after questions about what's being done to increase testing of farm workers in Windsor-Essex for COVID-19. And it comes after we told you that Ontario Health has not completed on-site testing at a farm in 2 weeks. The CBC's Jason Vio joining us now. A very much a developing story here. Jason, what's the latest you can tell us?
Well, we learned, Chris, within just the last few hours that a second isolation site for migrant workers has opened up in Windsor-Essex, and that is the hotel here behind me, the Holiday Inn on Huron Church Road. And it's being used for migrant workers who have either tested positive for COVID-19 or may have come in contact with somebody who has tested positive, so they need to isolate for a period of time as a precaution. Now, this is the second isolation site, a hotel being used in Windsor-Essex for migrant workers for this purpose. The first one opened a couple of weeks ago, and that's the Best Western in Leamington, and that filled up, so they needed to get a second location. And all of this is being overseen by the Canadian Red Cross. They say at last check, they're taking care of 140 migrant workers in Windsor-Essex for those reasons. They've either tested positive for COVID or may have come in contact with somebody who has. And they say there are 40 people from the Red Cross physically on the ground in Windsor-Essex helping those people, and another 30 doing so remotely.
Also providing some psychosocial support if they need that. We have a VOT, that's a virtual operations team, that's what we call it. It's a team of individuals who are off-site, and they operate a call center of sorts. So they are available by phone. A phone number has been provided to each individual as they arrive at the hotels, and they are able to phone that number and let us know if they have any concerns, any needs, and then those are addressed.
Now, she also addressed some photos that you may have seen circulating on social media showing very small portions of food being left in takeout boxes for migrant workers who are isolating, or food being left that isn't accustomed to them in terms of where they're from or their cultures. And she says she's aware of those photos. She's unsure where they were taken exactly and when, and if they are in fact migrant workers that the Red Cross is overseeing. But she says they're constantly trying to work with the migrant workers to give them the best care that they want, and that phone line helps. And they're also working with the on-site chef to help with some of those food issues as well.
Now, Jason, as you reported earlier this week, Leamington, the hospital there, treating things like the start of the pandemic. What does the mayor think about all of this?
Well, Leamington's mayor, Hilda McDonald, is kind of renewing her push for mandatory testing, and she says the way to make it work, in her eyes, is to make it a part of their agreement to work, essentially. So it gives them an option, she says. And she sent a letter to that effect to Ontario Premier Doug Ford, as well as some ministers as well. She says she hasn't heard back just yet, but she does have a phone call scheduled with Ontario's Agriculture Minister later this week.
It's very discouraging for me. It's discouraging for the members, the residents, because it's morale, right? If we don't see numbers changing, it's discouraging. It's discouraging for our businesses, and we need to start making headway.
Now, both Hilda McDonald and the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit confirmed today that the Migrant Worker Assessment Center for testing for COVID-19 has either reopened already or will be reopened very soon. We haven't been able to confirm that with Erie Shores Healthcare, which oversaw that process previously before it shut down. They didn't respond to our emails today. And as you know, they did close that assessment center because there was some low turnout. But we're also hearing from the United Food and Commercial Workers Union. They're making several demands as certain ways to make things better for migrant workers. And they say one of those is to have the assessment center opened later into the evening, up to 10 p.m., for example, because they say in many cases these migrant workers don't get off their shift until 8 p.m. or later, so it makes it really difficult for them to show up to an assessment center and get tested for COVID-19. Chris.
It'll be interesting to see if they take that approach into consideration. Thanks for this, Jason. The CBC's Jason Vio live tonight. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is facing some questions today about the ousting of an MPP from his party's caucus after she refused to vote for a COVID-19 emergency bill. The MPP called the legislation an overreach, and as Lorenda Redikoff explains, she's not the only one that's concerned about Bill 195.
Really, I wasn't supposed to vote in the way that I did.
Belinda Carahalios knew it was a whipped vote, but she says she couldn't vote with her party.
And this was the first bill in 2 years where everyone that contacted the office said you cannot vote for this. So when the message is that loud and clear, to me, that makes my job a lot easier.
Bill 195 allows for the opening of Ontario, but keeps emergency orders in place.
Making sure that we give the flexibility to hospitals to help out on the long-term care folks with their staff. Making sure that the long-term care staff stays at one location. You know, this was one of the single most important pieces of legislation to protect the people of Ontario. Bottom line, full stop.
The union CUPE has spoken out against the bill, saying it takes away the rights of healthcare workers, allowing their vacations to be cancelled, their shifts or the job they do changed.
There's been no consultation. In fact, all there is this hard hammer of legislation that, could remove these rights for a year or longer. That simply must be seen as unacceptable.
He expects there will be legal action. He hopes the government will negotiate, even though the bill has been passed. Carahalios was praised by the Premier on his tour last week.
Along with our all-star MPPs.
Today, he said this all came as a surprise.
I was with her for 2 days, last week. Never said a word to me, didn't mention anything to me.
Now an independent, she says she did try to talk to the Premier during his tour.
I said, I need to have a phone call with you. It's quite urgent. And he said, no problem, I'll call you tonight.
But she says that never happened. She sent emails and spoke to his staff.
I'm going to have to let the House Leader answer that.
The government did leave an opening for her to return if she wants.
That is something that we would bring to the caucus and allow a vote from the full caucus on.
I'm not there yet. I don't know if I'll be there or when I'll be there.
Lorenda Redikoff, CBC News, Toronto.
At this very moment, companies across the globe are coming to grips with an anti-Black reckoning within their own ranks. Tonight, a CBC News investigation reveals that the public broadcaster is no different. In an exclusive interview, a former Black CBC employee details his experience and the corporation's response. Katie Nicholson has our story.
This all happened in April of 2019 at the Fifth Estate at an all-staff meeting. A room of more than 30 people watched a BBC documentary on racism in the southern U.S. that used the N-word 12 times. Now, according to witnesses in that discussion that followed, host Gillian Findley and editor Loretta Hicks repeated that word. Senior leadership were in the room and no one said anything. Associate producer Dexter Brown was the only Black person in the room.
Because they should have known better. I feel like they should have known that that word has a lot of power in it.
In an email, Findley says she doesn't remember using the word, but says, if, however, my memory is wrong and I did quote someone from the film using the word, I apologize. It should not have happened. Hicks declined comment. Legg did not respond to multiple requests for comment, and Close said she is unable to speak because of confidentiality. Brown met with the show's boss the next day, but there was no resolution. 2 weeks later, he complained to HR and asked to be moved off the show, but says he was offered other positions, but he wasn't satisfied with the options and stayed put. In the end, CBC hired an outside law firm to review the incident. Dragged on for months, but he wasn't allowed to see the final report or any details about what CBC planned to do to prevent future incidents. The Canadian Association of Black Journalists says CBC should have done better.
I think a company has a responsibility to ensure that it is dealt with quickly and not just disciplinary action, but to ensure that the person who suffered the pain, who suffered the most hurt out of this situation, is handled with care.
CBC declined an on-camera interview, but in a statement says the investigation into the incident was comprehensive and there were corrective actions, but couldn't say what they were. And the public broadcaster has promised to make big changes, including hiring and promoting more people of color and introducing mandatory bias training.
I hope, through all of this, craziness, that there's some positive change, that people feel safer working at CBC.
It's too late for Dexter Brown, who left for CTV earlier this spring. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
Back here in Windsor, police believe that the pandemic has led to a dramatic decrease in crime compared to the same time last year. There were just over 1,000 criminal code violations last month compared to just over 1,600 in June of 2019. That's a drop of 33%. Police believe it's probably due to the decrease in activity because of the COVID-19 pandemic. But there was a slight uptick last month compared to May, 1,127 in June compared to 1,035 in May, a 9% increase. Police believe going into phase 2 of the reopening and an increase in activity overall may be to blame. They say that they have to analyze it further and add that the overall reduction in crime will allow them to redeploy their resources to concentrate on areas that need policing the most.
There are times we're able to take for the open streets events. We know that segments of the population will go to those open streets events. We know that we're going to have larger immediate increases in temporary population in those neighborhoods, and we will put more police in those neighborhoods, resource permitting, to ensure that the neighborhoods are getting the protection they deserve.
Police are searching for a 28-year-old woman who is suspected to be involved in a shooting in Leamington. Now, this here is a photo of the woman police are looking for. They say a 39-year-old woman was shot early Sunday morning. She was treated at the hospital for her injuries, which are said to be non-life-threatening. Police say the 28-year-old suspect is using an alias of either Samantha or Sam Smith and working to clarify the suspect's legal name. They're asking anyone with information about the woman's identity or whereabouts to contact the OPP or Crime Stoppers, which you can do anonymously. A boil water advisory has been issued for some people living in Leamington. The advisory affects people living along parts of Mercia Road 10, 12, and Kent Road 1. Now, you can see the details here on the screen. About 50 homes are affected. So far, no illnesses have been reported. The health unit says that for now, people living on those streets should be using bottled water or bring tap water to a hard boil for about a minute. Decaying boarded up homes, a neighborhood frustrated by a lack of progress. It's the legacy that's attached to the Ambassador Bridge Company and its relationship with the Sandwich Town community. Now, in the wake of the death of owner Matty Maroon, some are looking to the future, but as Dale Molnar reports, many aren't convinced that the company is going to change its ways.
A dead raccoon lies in front of a home on College Avenue, just a common sight for the people in Sandwich Town. The boarded-up homes provide a breeding ground for the animals. Residents blame the Ambassador Bridge and the city's interim control bylaw preventing the demolition of the homes. The bridge company acquired them to build a connecting road to the EC Row Expressway.
It's not even a plan that's on the table right now.
The former head of safety and security for the bridge told CBC News 2 years ago that they may entertain putting a Victorian Gardens or a farmer's market on the site. Councillor Fabio Costante would like to see an affordable housing project. Neighbors agree.
It would be fabulous if they turn this into low-cost housings or multiplexes or that there.
Yes, that would be a great idea. Our neighborhood is hurting for residents. So low-income housing would be great to have that here.
Community activist TJ Travis brought a petition to council 2 years ago to get the homes demolished. He says affordable housing is badly needed in the neighborhood.
Any opportunity that opens up for us to provide affordable houses is an excellent route, considering the issue that we have here with homelessness.
Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare is currently looking for a place in the West End to build its new mixed-use residential and assisted living facility project. Vice President Bill Morris said they would be open to building it where the homes are if the bridge makes an offer. The bridge company has not given any indication it has any plans for the land going forward. The president of the Canada-U.S. Business Association says the fight against the Gordie Howe Bridge is over for the Maroons, but could it mean Matthew Maroon would sell the Ambassador Bridge?
Whenever there's a change in the guard, people probably evaluate what they want to keep and what they want to move on, what they want to concentrate their time on, really.
The bridge company is still trying to get permission to allow trucks carrying hazardous materials, something that worries community activist Terry Kennedy.
These are the things that endanger the lives not only of the people in Sandwich Town, but the rest of the city.
TJ Travis believes Matthew Maroon should come see for himself the impact the homes have had on the neighborhood.
I would invite Matthew Maroon to come into the neighborhood and have real conversations with the people about how we can move forward. But if he's not interested in the uplift, then I'm not sure there's much to say.
CBC News has requested comment from the bridge company, but we have not heard back. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
U.S. President Donald Trump today announced that he's sending federal agents into more American cities, including Chicago, to combat rising crime. His administration has come under fire for its growing intervention in local law enforcement, and many critics say that these actions are politically motivated. Stephen D'Souza has the latest.
Every night in a cloud of tear gas, a small section of downtown Portland is a battleground. On one side, protesters upset with racial injustice in the U.S. On the other side, federal agents wearing camouflage, cracking down on what the White House has called violence, chaos, and anarchy.
These individuals are organized, and they have one mission in mind: to burn down or to cause extreme damage to the federal courthouse and to law enforcement officers.
Their presence conducting violent arrests in military uniforms with little identification and unmarked vehicles has civil rights groups and local authorities calling the situation an authoritarian crackdown. But DHS Acting Secretary Chad Wolf defended their presence.
These police officers are not stormtroopers. They are not the Gestapo, as some have described them.
Now the crackdown in Portland is set to spread to other cities like Chicago.
And murderers and violent criminals are breaking a wide range of federal laws. We have that. It's as wide as it can be. We will find them, arrest them, and prosecute them.
You've reached 911. I'm sorry that there is no one here to answer your emergency call.
With ominous campaign ads warning of a lawless country if Joe Biden wins the presidency, critics say the president is taking a law and order platform to the extreme in a desperate attempt to win re-election. More than a dozen mayors have written to the president saying they don't want federal agents policing their cities.
This is a game he's playing to divert attention away from the many crises that are facing this nation.
But with cities like New York, Chicago, and Atlanta seeing major spikes in crime this summer, Trump says the move is necessary.
What we see happening in Portland, Oregon is blatantly unconstitutional, and it is divisive, and it is dangerous.
With lawsuits already launched in Portland, the battle is expected to continue in the courts and on the streets. Stephen D'Souza, CBC News, New York.
A live look outside here. You see the Detroit River, the Canadian flag waving, and the clouds in the sky don't look too threatening, but rain could be on the way. Colette Kennedy will break down the forecast for us next. And joining us now for a live look at the weather is Colette Kennedy. Colette, I got a sneak peek at that board there. It looks like you've got more confirmations of some tornadoes from the weekend, eh?
Yeah, that's right, Chris. And, you know, as I was kind of explaining yesterday, they're still sending out crews. The Northern Tornadoes Project from Western University are still sending out, you know, crews doing their investigations from Sunday's severe weather. And so they've added 2 more confirmed tornadoes. So now that means the count from Sunday is up to 5. And that means for the season, our count for Southern Ontario is up to 18. And just a reminder, we did talk about this yesterday, but average season is about 12 to 13 tornadoes. So this is definitely a very active season that we've been seeing. And I know we're not necessarily done with it yet. That count from Sunday could still go up because they're still doing some investigating. So keep you posted on that. I want to keep you posted, though, on what's going on right now. How about your current temperature? It's 28 degrees. Chatham Kent, we've got you at 27, 24 at Sarnia, but add 10 to that for your humidex value. And oh boy, yeah, soupy out there, 37, the humidex value here in Windsor, and some of the storms. You know, with this much moisture in the atmosphere, you get they may be some small rain showers that are moving through, small in terms of how they look on the radar, but it doesn't take much, and in just a short period of time, you could get 20, 30, even 40 millimeters of rain coming out of this, just being wrung out of the atmosphere because there's so much moisture there. So into the evening and overnight hours, still a few of these what are spotty rain showers, but again, you get some heavy downpours very, very quickly. Into tomorrow morning, a little bit of rain shower activity left, and there's a risk into the afternoon. I put a chance at 30% in there, but you're noticing the modeling not really picking much of this up, and some of it staying next door into Michigan. So I put the chance in there. I don't see much happening for us, so just know the risk there. Some patchy fog also possible. Again, so if you're a shift worker, some of our frontline workers often are in the medical field, so just know there could be some reduced visibility overnight tonight. Your temperatures for tomorrow, still feeling pretty humid, though. Humidex values upper 30s. And then this is a look at the 5-day forecast. The temperatures, Chris, are going right back up with those temps in the 30s and the humidex values in the high 30s as well.
Always something to deal with. Thanks, Ms. Colette.
Yep, you got it.
Now, coming up next, we have more on the story of Canada's Governor General and her promise to improve the working environment at Rideau Hall. That's next. The Secretary of Governor General Julie Payette is promising to improve the working environment at Rideau Hall. This after a CBC News story spoke to 12 sources who say that there's a culture of fear and harassment that starts at the top. Ashley Burke reports.
I've spoken to even more former employees at Rideau Hall who say they left because of the harassment, and they're upset that the Governor General's office is saying that it's not the reality of working there. More than a dozen sources say Governor General Julie Payette berates, belittles, and publicly humiliates staff to the point where people were reduced to tears, went on leave, or left the office altogether. And our official secretary, Assunta De Lorenzo, is also accused of harassing employees, calling some lazy and incompetent. De Lorenzo sent an email to all Rideau Hall staff last night after CBC's story broke. She didn't deny the allegations, but calls the story troubling, to say the least. De Lorenzo said, "I want you to know that I, along with the Governor General and the entire management team, am deeply committed to fostering a healthy work environment. Please rest assured that the well-being of our employees remains our priority." The email goes on to say that staff can contact their managers, the ombudsman, or human resources if they have complaints. But sources that CBC News spoke to said that there's a culture of fear at the office, and it is difficult putting complaints in writing. They feel there's no recourse when their harassment is coming from the very top. Now, the NDP are also calling now for an independent investigation.
The Prime Minister can show leadership. And will the Prime Minister show leadership and launch an independent investigation?
Every Canadian has the right to a safe, secure workspace free from harassment, and that is extremely important. That's why we move forward on June 22nd with announcements on strengthening the oversight in federally regulated agencies and environments, including the public service.
Experts say other than the Queen, Justin Trudeau is the only one who can raise concerns with Payette, but it's not clear yet what the government's going to do. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
6:29 p.m. and that is it for us here at CBC Windsor News. You can always go to our website for more stories, cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. Just search CBC Windsor on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Power and Politics is up next, already in progress. We leave you tonight with a shot of the Tower Cam, a live look at the city's core here. Thanks for watching, and you can see, I think, a couple people on patios out there too. A look at what the new normal is kind of like this summer. Thanks for watching.